There is no minimum height requirement specified in the National Electrical Code for receptacles mounted in half-inch electrical metallic tubing, commonly referred to as EMT, above a mobile workbench. It is important to understand that while the NEC provides a comprehensive set of guidelines for electrical installations, it primarily focuses on safety and general requirements. It does not typically dictate specific mounting heights for receptacles in all situations. The absence of a specific minimum height requirement in the NEC means that the installation is subject to the judgment of the installer and the local electrical inspector, as long as it adheres to the general safety principles outlined in the code. This allows for flexibility in design and installation to accommodate various workbench configurations and user needs. However, it is crucial to remember that local codes and regulations may impose stricter requirements than the NEC. Many municipalities and jurisdictions have their own electrical codes that amend or supplement the NEC, and these local codes may include specific provisions regarding receptacle height above workbenches or other surfaces. Therefore, it is always essential to consult with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction, often abbreviated as AHJ, to determine if there are any specific local requirements that apply to the installation. In the absence of specific local requirements, several factors should be considered when determining the appropriate mounting height for receptacles above a mobile workbench. Firstly, the intended use of the workbench and the types of equipment that will be plugged into the receptacle should be taken into account. If the workbench will be used for tasks that involve liquids or conductive materials, it may be prudent to mount the receptacles higher to minimize the risk of accidental contact or water damage. Secondly, the accessibility of the receptacle should be considered. The receptacle should be mounted at a height that is convenient and easy to reach for users of the workbench, without being so high that they are difficult to access or pose a tripping hazard. Thirdly, the physical constraints of the workbench and the surrounding environment should be considered. The receptacle should be mounted in a location that does not interfere with the operation of the workbench or the movement of equipment around it. The wiring method, in this case half-inch EMT, also plays a role in determining the appropriate mounting height. EMT provides physical protection for the conductors and helps to ensure that they are not damaged or exposed to hazards. The EMT should be properly supported and secured to the workbench or the surrounding structure, and the receptacle should be securely mounted to the EMT using appropriate fittings and connectors. In addition to the above considerations, it is important to ensure that the installation complies with all other applicable requirements of the NEC. This includes requirements for grounding, overcurrent protection, and the use of listed and labeled equipment. The receptacle should be properly grounded to provide a safe path for fault current to flow back to the source, and they should be protected by circuit breakers or fuses of the appropriate size to prevent overloads and short circuits. The receptacles and other electrical equipment used in the installation should be listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories, to ensure that they meet applicable safety standards. When installing receptacles in EMT, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and to use appropriate tools and techniques. The EMT should be cut and bent to the correct size and shape, and it should be securely fastened to the workbench or the surrounding structure using appropriate clamps and straps. The conductors should be properly insulated and protected from damage, and they should be connected to the receptacles using appropriate terminals and connectors. It is also important to ensure that the installation complies with all applicable requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act, commonly abbreviated as ADA. The ADA requires that electrical receptacles and other accessible elements be located within a certain reach range to accommodate people with disabilities. Therefore, the receptacle should be mounted at a height that is accessible to people with disabilities, and this should be located in a location that does not obstruct access to the workbench or other accessible elements. In summary, while the NEC does not specify a minimum height for receptacles mounted in half-inch EMT above a mobile workbench, several factors should be considered when determining the appropriate mounting height. These factors include the intended use of the workbench, the accessibility of the receptacles, the physical constraints of the workbench and the surrounding environment, and the requirements of local codes and regulations. It is always essential to consult with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction to ensure that the installation complies with all applicable requirements. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, and it should only be performed by qualified and experienced individuals. If you are not comfortable performing electrical work yourself, it is best to hire a licensed electrician to do the job. Always prioritize safety and follow all applicable codes and regulations to ensure that the installation is safe and compliant. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, is updated every 3 years, so it is important to make sure you are using the latest edition. The NEC is a comprehensive document, and it can be challenging to navigate. There are many resources available to help you understand the NEC, including textbooks, training courses, and online forums. If you have any questions about the NEC, it is best to consult with a qualified electrical professional. Also, ensure that all electrical boxes are properly sized according to the number and size of conductors entering the box, following NEC Table 314.16a and 314.16b. Use appropriate connectors and fittings for connecting the EMT to the electrical boxes and receptacles, ensuring a secure and grounded connection. All metal parts of the electrical system, including the EMT and metal boxes, must be properly grounded to provide a low impedance path for fault current, following NEC Section 250.4a. When running EMT, avoid sharp bends or kinks that could damage the conductors or make it difficult to pull wires through the conduit. Use conduit benders designed for EMT to create smooth, gradual bends, following NEC Chapter 9. Support the EMT at intervals not exceeding 10 feet and within 3 feet of each box or fitting, using appropriate conduit straps or hangers, as per NEC Section 358.30. When selecting the appropriate size of conductors for the circuit, consider the ampacity of the conductors, the ambient temperature, and any directing factors that may apply, following NEC Table 310.15b16 and 310.15b3. Choose receptacles that are rated for the appropriate voltage and amperage for the intended use, and ensure that they are listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory. Install ground fault circuit interrupter, commonly referred to as GFCI, protection for receptacles located in areas where there is a high risk of electric shock, such as near water or in damp locations, as required by NEC Section 210.8. After completing the electrical installation, thoroughly test the circuit to ensure that it is working properly and that there are no faults or hazards. Use a multimeter or other testing equipment to verify the voltage, current, and continuity of the circuit. Remember that electrical codes and regulations are constantly evolving, so it is important to stay up to date on the latest changes and requirements. Attend training courses, read industry publications, and consult with experienced electrical professionals to stay informed. Always prioritize safety and follow best practices when working with electricity. Take your time, double-check your work, and never take shortcuts that could compromise the safety of yourself or others. Electricity is a powerful force that can be dangerous if not handled properly. By following these guidelines and adhering to all applicable codes and regulations, you can help to ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation.